Welcome everyone, Jack Delahy here, founder of collegeconsulting.us, bringing you another video from my office. Today's going to be an exciting one. I'm talking about the inputs to outputs ratio of the actions high schoolers can take to give them the highest leverage when it comes to college admissions. But before I go into that, just a quick background. Founder of collegeconsulting.us. For the last 15 plus years, we've helped thousands and thousands of families with high performing high schoolers in the United States achieve dream college acceptance. And we do so with a little bit unique tactics. Our goal is to teach high schoolers and their parents the fact that you can have an ultra successful college planning journey while also sleeping 8 hours a night, having fun, and yes, having time to have dinner with your family each night. It is possible, and with the math I'm going to show you today, I hope you can see how these tactics can actually be brought to real life. So with that said, let's get into it. What are the highest leverage tactics you can do when it comes to college admissions? I'm going to give you a hint right now. The answer is killing your standardized testing, whether that's SAT or ACT. So now that you have the end result, you can just go. No, okay. I'm going to walk through the math so that you can see exactly why, from an inputs to outputs ratio, killing your SAT or ACT, getting the highest score you possibly can, is the most effective thing you can do as a high schooler when it comes to college admissions. So let's actually back up. What are the 4 categories of college admissions in the United States? Meaning, in order, what are the 4 most important things? We preach this over and over and over again to our students who are in our program. Number 1, high school grades and the rigor of classes taken. Nothing will be more important than this. But wait, Jack, I thought you just said killing your standardized test score. Getting a killer SAT or ACT is the number 1 thing. I said it's the most effective thing, not the most important. Hands down, today, the most important factor in college admissions remains your high school grades. If you are striving for Ivy League or top 25, like the vast majority of our students are, you must have good high school grades and you need to take a high rigor. Number 2, here it comes, standardized testing. And yes, that is the SAT or ACT in this country. There are no other standardized tests. But fun fact, just to dispel a myth, a lot of families come in thinking that schools in different locations of the country prefer one versus the other. That is a myth. It doesn't matter whether it's SAT or ACT. We have concordance tables these days. Colleges know how to compare the two. It doesn't matter which you take. However, you should definitely choose one and then go all in on that test. Number 3, the Common App. Now, this happens senior year when you actually put together your profile, meaning the last 4 years of your life. What were all your accomplishments, your successes? You put it into the application, which on average in this country, your application will get reviewed for 8 minutes. 8 minutes is what the average applicant reviewer will give your entire application, which is summarizing 4 years of your life. You can see why this is very important. Number 4, this has a lot of different terms depending on who you talk to. But at collegeconsulting.us, we are adamant we call it your story. This is how you stand out from the pack and tell a high leverage, authentic, differentiating story that says, hey, college admissions, here is who I want to be if you let me in your doors. And oh, by the way, here's what I did the last 4 years that aligned with that story. So now that you have the 4 common tiers in terms of college admissions, let's talk through why number 2 is hands down the most high leverage, effective area to focus when it comes to inputs to outputs. So let me get my laptop for a second. You all liked my video a couple weeks ago so much. You gave me some feedback when it came to math. So here's a little bit more math. So when it comes to high school grades, I did a little chat GPT prompt and then ran it through the Jack Delahy brain algorithm here. So on my chat GPT prompt that I did, the typical high performing high schooler, meaning the student who's taking APs, the student who's taking honors courses, is spending on average 1,080 hours per year in the classroom. They are spending on average 684 hours per year doing homework, which comes to a total of 1,764 hours. I want you all to think about that for a second. That is a lot of time. Think about all the hours, the early mornings, the waking up at 6 a.m. I remember it well. Day in and day out, a very rigorous schedule. You go through your whole day, taking the most elite classes, focus. Then after school, maybe you have activities, you have sports. You go to an away sporting game. You don't get back until 7 p.m. You come home, you eat dinner, and then what do? You do homework for 2, 3, 4 hours in your bedroom until the wee hours of the night, and then you go to bed and you wake up and you do it all over again. For the most regimented high schools in the country, that is the reality. Now, high school grades, the most important. From an inputs ratio, that is an extreme amount of input. So, yes, the input is ultra high, and the output is the number one most important factor. High input, definitely high output. High input, high output. The second most important characteristic for at least the top schools in this country, hands down, is your standardized test score. And this is where the notion of high leverage comes to play. You're about to see the math behind what it takes to get an elite standardized test score. And obviously, as you know, it's the second most important factor. So you can actually go back on my YouTube channel, see some of my past webinars with Larry Chung. He's the founder of Tiger Way Prep. And a common question that is asked when we do our co-webinars is, how long does it take to achieve an elite SAT or ACT score? And Larry has thousands and thousands of data points. By the way, the notion of elite score varies person to person, student to student, based on the colleges they're getting into. But he says consistently 4 to 9 months of concerted effort. Now, if you're saying, what is concerted effort? I actually took here some of his teachings. And basically, concerted effort is 4 hours per week of allocated study time, which then he says, if it's between 4 and 9 months, if we take the high range here, let's just say it takes 9 months, 4 hours per week to study. You've got 156 hours, which according to Larry and thousands of data points, basically is the high end of the amount of time that if you're a thoughtful, high-performing student, which this student is as well, you need in order to get an elite test score. Now, again, elite test score varies. You can actually go onto our YouTube channel. One of our interns and former students, Jack Beecher, studied himself, got a perfect score. And if you ask him, my guess is he would actually say he spent less than 156 hours and got a perfect score on his ACT. So again, it varies. But what you can see here is look at the vast difference between the input of number one and number two. 1,764 hours, 156 hours. Yes, this is a high input, and it does yield the number one most important factor. But take a look at this. 156 hours yields the second most important factor in college admissions. In fact, if you're wondering what is the difference between this right here is 2.21% of this. 2.21%. 2.2% of an input. And you only drop one spot on the output scale. In college admissions departments, you can go read actually, but let's see, who gets in and why, which I brought up recently. But there are a plethora of other books that do a deep dive inside the top admissions departments in the country. They have thresholds. They have thresholds when it comes to college admissions, where if you don't meet their high school grades and standardized test scores in their first read, they will throw out your application. Meaning, we now live in a world where some schools are test optional. So if that's the case, you can put an asterisk on this. But if you apply to a test mandatory school, they will have thresholds and standards that if you don't meet their standardized test score, your application will be thrown out. 1, 3, and 4 can be exceptional, and it won't matter. Now, again, if you're applying test optional, that's an asterisk. That's not for this video. But the bigger theme here is ask any top admissions rep, what are the two most important factors in college admissions? And it's high school grades and the rigor of classes taken and your standardized test score. 156 hours of work, 1,764 hours of work. This video is not to say that this is not important. I want that to be very clear. In fact, again, if you do not have the grades and test scores at many schools across the country, the top ones, your application will be thrown out in the first review. You will not get a real read. Both of these are critically important. What the purpose of this video is to allow parents who are watching this, and maybe even your high schooler, ideally, the ability to take one step back. Instead of blindly charging forward with your actions, think, is this effective? Or am I just doing this because everyone else around me is? We at collegeconsulting.us unanimously teach effective systems, and that is why we are so adamant that all of our students do everything they possibly can to get an elite SAT or ACT score. It is 2.21% of the input of this, and it only drops one spot on the hierarchy. Now, I briefly want to assess these two. The Common App and essays, absolutely critically important. However, for the sake of this YouTube video, there's a very finite amount of time where this applies, and it really is the summer between junior and senior year into senior fall. For the sake of this video, I'm not going to go into the input here, but obviously it is the third most important factor. The fourth most important factor, your story, I am going to talk about a bit, because here's the thing. See these 3 stars? These are the 3 that, whether you are in 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade, it does not matter. You can be working on these 3. You cannot be working on your Common App or your essays throughout high school. It does not work like that. There is a finite window where we do this. And in our program, we're on the early side, and it's the summer between junior and senior year for all of our students. 1, 2, and 4, a student can work on 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. The reason this rounds out this YouTube video here is because these 3, I would love it if you take back to your high schooler, or if you're a high schooler watching this, you can say, what are the inputs of these 3? Just so you know, your story, building an authentic, differentiating story with things that you really enjoy doing, that as a byproduct might align with the path of what you want to do in college. Huge variable in terms of the input. Huge variable, right? I've seen stories where probably is honestly less than 156 hours worth of total time over 4 years, and it is the story that gets them into college. I've also seen stories that you think about it, there's no way anything will ever be close to this. But maybe double, triple, quadruple, absolutely. But the bigger theme is being able to call that out ahead of time. Saying, this story that I'm trying to build, that involves this project, that involves this unique activity, I spend about this much time a week. I multiply that out by how much a month, how much a year. Over 4 years, that's this many hours, right? Fill that in. And oh, by the way, this is now the 4th most important factor. What you will quickly be able to see is this ratio. 156 hours to the 2nd most important factor. However many hours to the 4th most important factor. 1,764 hours to the most important factor. Inputs to outputs. The most effective thing. If you're standing here today and you have a 9th or 10th or even 11th grader, and you're saying, what one thing can my 9th or 10th or 11th grader focus on that will give me the best chance of admission? My immediate assessment will be standardized testing. No brainer. It is the smallest input for the greatest output in college admissions. A lot of families out there think if it's harder, more difficult, takes more time, it must be more impressive. Please stop this thinking. That is not the case. College admissions departments are full of humans, and humans are not robots. It does not work like that. If it did work like that, these ratios would be identical, but they're not. And so if you've taken anything out of this YouTube video, it is assessing inputs to outputs properly. And just so you know, if you want to get really granular, if there's anything you've taken from this video, if your high schooler is taking the SAT and ACT and does not have an elite SAT or ACT score, please encourage them to study hard and get that score. That will be the single most effective input to output ratio when it comes to their college application. Hope this math helped. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I'll read all the comments. By the way, we have 2 options beyond this video if you're interested. The first is our 100% free college confidence community. We'll link to it below. You can actually just apply to join, and we have 7 of our top lessons that are not on my YouTube channel right inside there, guiding families step by step through the college application journey, teaching students how to differentiate themselves with a powerful story, teaching students how to actually assess, do I want to take the SAT or ACT? And then, by the way, teaching students how to come up with a plan, just like Jack Beecher. You can go take a look at link in the description to some of his videos where he got a perfect score. It is possible. And if you say, I want more, you can actually click the button below. You can book a 100% free college planning strategy session for your family with a member of my team. We will assess your situation. We have an all-inclusive start-to-finish college confidence program. We only accept 23% of families, so it will be a back and forth where we will assess what you need in your college planning solution. But if you are a 9th and 10th grader particularly, I absolutely encourage you as a parent to book that call so that if we can help over the next 4 years, we can start putting you into processes that will help you complete high leverage activities to eventually reach your full collegiate potential. Thanks so much for joining. Have a good one.